Hey, everybody, what's happening? We're live. Ben, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I am here.
All right, so far, so good. We have a host. Check.
And a producer. Double check.
Double check. All right, we have a live stream chat room going on. Triple check. You do have a song of the day. Oh, my God. Quadruple check. All right, let's stop doing the check thing. Your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, December 23rd. is just moments away. But before we do this, we need to thank the Chicago Reader for being a sponsor and for, well, being a home to the Ben Joravsky Show. ChicagoReader.com. Subscribe to the Reader. Fantastic publication. Great articles from Ben Joravsky, Maya Dukmasova, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com. Subscribe. And also, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Federation of Labor. How you feeling? Do you have the holiday spirit, Ben? Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the holiday cheer? Really?
I can't wait. So we have tomorrow off. The doctor and I will not be in the house. Like that, D? But
good.
We have plenty of shows that will drop. That's the sound of the dropping. But I hope I got this fire pit. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be drinking liquor and sitting around the fire pit and going, yeah, jing, 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 jingle bells. So, yeah, I got the. How about you? You got the spirit of the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, and all that?
Yes, I do. I'm feeling the holiday spirit.
You know, you got that glow, D.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you're emanating a glow, a holiday glow. It's just coming out of your ears.
Well, I have headphones on. You can't see my ears, but.
Well, they're seeping out like steam.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. All right. Your song of the day comes from Frank. It's by Elton John, and it's Saturday Night All Right.
Oh, I love that song. 1973 was the year young Dennis wasn't even born yet. I don't think Frank was born. Saturday night's all right. Get a little action. And I'm going to play piano. Dee, 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 dee.
Great piano. Sounds a little like your guitar, but, whatever.
That, of course, will not make the podcast. I'll be edited out. Mm-hmm. Edit that part out, D. Okay? Yeah.
False. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Karl Marx Trump Wednesday, and here's why. Turns out President Donnie's a lefty. Who knew? Next thing you know, he'll be subscribing to the Ben Joravsky Show, listening on the live feed, ripping into Nancy Pelosi for selling out our democratic values, just like the rest of the crew. By the way, speaking of radicals who come on the Ben Joravsky Show, attorney Leonard Goodwin will be returning after the New Year's. Yeah, I cut the deal with him earlier today, D. Radical lawyer, perhaps the only writer in town who's a bigger lefty than I am. Anyway, back to Trump. He's threatening to veto the stimulus bill that his own administration, or at least Steve Mnuchin, spent the last few weeks tortuously negotiating with House Dems and Mitch Republicans in the Senate. He says it's not lefty enough. Well, that's not an exact quote, but more or less what he's saying. He says the legislation is a, quote, disgrace. He says it sells out the workers who've been hit the hardest by the economic turndown. Says the one-time $600 allowance should be raised to $2,000, to which I say, right on, President Donnie.
I'm not a doctor.
It's never too late to find your free flag. You may not be a doctor, but you sound like a lefty. Says he may not sign the bill, wants it renegotiated. Democrats everywhere are rejoicing, at least Democrats of the lefty persuasion. It's like he's stealing our talking points. Remember, it was Bernie Sanders who was pushing hardest for the $2,000 allowance, and it was Senate Republicans who blocked it. The Senate Republicans, if you recall, said it was too much money to give people, said it would deter them from working, like they ever opposed any handout to anyone on the 1% on the grounds that it would deter their working spirit. And then all they would do is sit around the house eating reefer brownies and watching reruns of the Patty Duke Show. A hot dog makes her lose control, Dennis.
Wow.
I'm
speechless.
I don't know where the Patty Duke thing came from, but it came from somewhere inside my brain. Isn't it funny, ladies and gentlemen, that Republicans worry so much about the work habits of poor people when they get assistance, but they don't worry about the work habits of rich people? The same bill has a handout to lots of rich people, and I will now read from the New York Times. Here we go. Let me just open up the page.
Are you unwrapping a Christmas present?
It's my newspaper, home delivered. I'm holding up the newspaper industry. Buried in pandemic aid, billions to soothe the richest. That's the headline. Tucked away in a 5,593-page spending bill that Congress rushed through on Monday night is provision that some tax experts call a $200 billion, that's a billion with a B, giveaway to the rich. It involves the tens of thousands of businesses that receive loans from the federal government this spring with the promise that the loans would be forgiven tax-free if they agreed to keep the employees on the payroll through the pandemic. But for some businesses and their high-paid accountants, as it was not enough, they went to Congress with another request. Not only should the forgiven loans not be taxed as income, but the expenditures used with those loans on payroll or benefits should be tax deductible. Oh my God.
Yes. That's billion with a B.
Sorry, he's a little late on that.
So they're feeding, that's okay. They're feeding from both ends. They get the money, they don't have to pay it back, and then whatever they spend on the workers, they get deduct from the amount they pay to the government. It's like a twofer handout. And it's funny, I don't hear Mitch McConnell or Ron Johnson or any of those other Republican scolds talking about how that might have a deterrence on the work habits of the wealthiest. They're not worried about them just sitting at home, clipping coupons. Let's face it, folks, it was a bogus argument from the get-go. You all know that. People can't be deterred from working if there are no jobs to work. And when the pandemic forces things like, the restaurant industry to shut down, or the nightclub industry, or newspaper industry, what the hell are people supposed to do? Become Republican senators? It's like, they figured out the precise number that it would take. I stole this line from someone on the Facebook, I must admit. When they decided on the $600, they figured out the exact allowance they had to come up with, the cheapest amount they could come up with to keep people from rioting in the street in desperation. And now here comes Karl Marx Trump saying, the hell with that. $600 is not enough. Nancy Pelosi immediately calls us bluffs. Yes. Up the allowance, she declares. We'll pass it by voice vote. Meanwhile, radio silence from Mitch McConnell. He's under the gun. Can he keep his Republican senators in line? That's tough. As I always say, MAGA controls the Republican Party, and Trump controls MAGA. And if Trump is telling them they've got to give more money to poor people, as hard as that is for Mitch McConnell to take, well, they may have to go along because they could all be challenged in the next primary as not being MAGA enough. It's so bizarre. I always thought that Trump had the potential to be a real agent of change because he's got this ultimate, I just don't give a beep attitude. It's like for years and years and years, way back in the day before half of you listeners are even born, Richard Nixon demonized any Democrat who talked about making peace with China. And then what did Nixon do? He made peace with China. The Republicans fell right in. And the Democrats were like, oh, wait a minute. Can you take back all the mean, nasty things you said about us when we wanted to do that? The same thing with Trump. If he wanted to, he could legalize not just reefer, but all drugs. What's the Fraternal Order of Police going to do? Object? You imagine Johnny Cannizzaro here in Chicago is going to complain about his hero, Donald Trump? He could have raised the minimum wage. He could have delivered Andrew Yang-style benefits to every citizen in America. He could have eradicated poverty by cutting the defense budget. MAGA would be cheering him along, and McConnell would have to go along with it. But Donald Trump was too chicken for real change. But here he is at the end, taking a page from Bernie Sanders and asking for Congress to raise the stimulus to $2,000. I love it. McConnell is so mad. Typical Trump. He didn't do anything to help during these long, torturous negotiations. He was out playing golf or fuming about the election, the big crybaby that he is. By the way, the veto threat came the same day that Trump pardoned 2 more figures from the Mueller report in the Russian inquiry and pardoned 3 crooked Republican congressmen and 4 mercenaries convicted in connection with killing Iraqi citizens. My guess is he'll probably back off on his threat to veto the stimulus. It's probably just pitching a hissy fit. Saw something on the Jimmy Dore show. Sometimes I think that Donald Trump every now and then watches the Jimmy Dore show, or maybe he has somebody else watch it and feeds him information what the left is saying about how angry they are at centrist Dems for betraying them. Anyway, he saw something and he said, yeah, I'll find my inner leftist just for a moment. And then he'll drop it and he'll back off. That's my guess. But the pardons, they'll stand, of course. Typical Donnie, talks a big game, but when it comes time to using his immense power and the cult-like devotion of MAGA for good, he's nowhere to be found. We got a great show today, everybody. Monroe Anderson will be here.
Yeah,
Anderson's
buddy.
got a thing or two to say about young Donnie Trump. Oh, yeah. He says there's a method to Donald's madness.
Oh,
yeah. Get out the reefer.
Wonder what that
Let's see
could be.
what Monroe Anderson has to say. But before we do that, before we take that deep dive in all the intricate political talk, the young man from Alton.
True. I'm from Alton.
The man that MAGA proudly calls Dr. D with the news.
That part's false. How's it going, everybody? I'm Dennis. Shout out to Kyle on the live stream chat. He says there are 330 million Americans and 511 million credit cards among them. Guess where that $600 is going to?
You got it so right. But maybe it'd be 2,000. Probably not enough to eradicate all that credit card debt. By the way, D, remind me I got to pay a credit card bill after the show.
Okay, you take care of that on your own.
Okay, sorry.
He said he heard that from a feller named Dwight, who's the co-host of the Eat the Rich podcast. Damn it, I wish we would have said it first.
Yeah, man. Damn. When did we come up with that name, huh?
Hey, don't forget, pay your credit cards. Before we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this week, for the second and sadly final time, we need to run through our holiday schedule. All right, one more time. No show tomorrow, Christmas Eve, and no show on Christmas Day. But we will have brand new content for all of you to download by 5 a.m. on both days at chicagoreader.com or wherever else you download podcasts. And we will have our weekend Benny J bonus interviews per usual. So let's lay out what we have planned here. First up, tomorrow, Thursday, daughter of Ben Joravsky and comedian Rachel Joravsky and Cody Wilkins will return to the program. Ben, what are we going to talk about there?
I have no idea. We'll be riffing later on today. That interview hasn't been done yet. But, that's really all improv when you get 2 comics on. So they'll be cracking jokes and making fun of me, and it should be pretty fun. They can talk a lot about unemployment benefits, 2 out of work of comedians in this economy. That interview has not happened yet. So who knows where it'll go.
All right, find out where it went, because it'll be available tomorrow at chicagoreader.com or wherever else you download podcasts by 5 a.m. Daughter of Ben Joravsky, Rachel Joravsky, and Cody Wilkins. On Friday, our Ben Joravsky Show Top 10 End of the Year Countdown begins. And because 2020 was probably the shittiest year we've all lived through, and also because in the year 2020, we attached the word gate to damn near every local story that we talked about, we're calling this year's countdown special The 10 Gates of Illinois Hell.
The 10 Gates of Illinois Hell. That's really good.
Whoa, man. It's going to be heavy. Popcorn Gate, Madigan Gate, and more. The 10 Gates of Illinois Hell. We're going to make this 2 separate shows. First, available on Friday. We do stories 10 through 6, and we're going to be recording this around 5 o'clock this evening, by the way. We've decided to live stream this on YouTube as well. We encourage all of you on the live stream chat right now to jump back on and hang with us at about 5 o'clock for our part 1 of our end of the year countdown. And, you know, for those of you who are still on the fence about listening to this, I don't know, maybe hearing the intro one more time will convince you. We're going with a creepy hell on earth apocalypse theme this year. It's the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell, a Ben Joravsky Show countdown special.
The 10 Gates of Illinois Hell.
Oh my God.
Whoa, I'm scared.
Holy cow. And yes, that will be on Christmas Day. That'll be fun, right?
It'll be a lot of fun.
Evil.
We did that last year. D, we've been doing this for a while. Just think about that for a moment. We had a Christmas show last year.
Yeah, but was it like apocalyptic? No.
No, I mean, well, come on, we've gotten far more sophisticated. And as you know, our staff has grown. Back then, it was just you. Now we have the whole sound crew team with Vilma.
All folks.
You know, yeah, and so, you know, so we get a lot of people working, get all that creative energy going. They come up with great stuff like that. Actually, Dennis and I, we had a pre-show planning meeting today. And we were total agreement on the 10, most hellish gates of the year. And pretty good stuff, D, if I must say so myself.
Pretty bad stuff, but pretty good stuff. I know what you're saying.
Yes.
I know what you're saying.
Yes.
So once again, the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell are top 10 local stories countdown. That'll be available on Friday. Merry Christmas. Sounds so evil. That'll be available on Friday. And like I said, we're going to live stream that as well at about 5 o'clock today. Join us, won't you? On to Saturday. She's back. It's our favorite Chicago political strategist, Del Marie Cobb. She talked Biden and more. Anything else you'd like people to know?
Yeah, we talked Del Marie. We did that. We've already did that interview, so it's ready to go. A lot of talk about the black vote in 2020 and the Democrats' obligation to black citizens and the pressures that puts the Democratic Party in. And some Lori Lightfoot discussion as well. And I don't want to give too much away. But, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, wow. A lot to talk about with her these days and the Anjanette Young situation. So Del Marie Cobb, she never holds anything back. She's not afraid to tell it like it is. And she does just that in the interview.
DMC. All right, that'll be Saturday, 5 a.m. On to Sunday. Sunday, we will be playing a best of show. We're going to move our Dan Savage interview back to the front of the line for everybody to see in case you missed the interview. But if you've listened to it, check out our archive of episodes. Over 800 episodes to listen to of the Ben Joravsky Show. So if there's a show you may have missed, catch up on it. And we'll be back on Tuesday. But finally on Monday, a brand new interview with ProPublica journalist and dear friend of the show, Mr. Mick Dumke. That's going to be available for download. He talked the Anjanette Young video and more.
Yeah, we were talking, Mick and I said, let's just go over the stories of the year, but we just started talking Anjanette Young, the Anjanette Young case, and Lori Lightfoot's handling of it, and comparing Lori Lightfoot to Rahm Emanuel, and just taking that deep dive in how much of the truth is being told so far, and how is this being spun. Mick Dumke knows a thing or two about politics in Illinois and Chicago. He's been covering them for a long time. And as everybody knows, he used to be my partner in crime at the Hideout. He retired from the Hideout shows, so it's always fun to get back together with Mick. Mick generally is the more centrist of the two of us. But I don't know, D, as the years go on, it's getting more and more lefty-like. So it's interesting, Mick Dumke becoming a lefty and finding his inner lefty.
Yeah, I did notice he said 10% like 50 times. So, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he's doing a little Bernie thing. I don't know.
He's going Bernie on us. But man, I'll tell you what, we took apart Lori Lightfoot. Oh, God. What a way to end the year. Just like a mirror image of the LaQuan McDonald situation, only a different person as mayor. So Mick and I take the deep dive on that.
Check out our holiday content, everybody. ChicagoReader.com and wherever else you download your podcast. We'll be back on Tuesday, regular show. And then we'll talk about our New Year's lineup when we cross that bridge. All right, local news. Let's talk about it. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
When I was a kid, I loved the Batman TV show.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
Oh, I did not know that.
I mean, it was a good show.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
I can understand that, Not sure how it's relevant to anything, but I can understand that, Mayor Lightfoot.
No public events scheduled for Mayor Lightfoot this afternoon. Ben Joravsky, what do you think Mayor Lightfoot wants for Christmas?
Redo a time capsule, go back in time, and have actually, have a more credible position on the Anjanette Young video that showed police breaking down the door to her house and harassing her. The wrong house. Oops. That kept the raid going for like a half an hour. And then the city of Chicago battled her in court. Maybe do a redo so she can look like she actually believes all the things she's saying at the moment. I think that's what you go back in a time machine. Go back in time. If I could turn back the hands of time. That's what she wants. Great song from the 70s. One of Dennis's favorite songs from the 70s.
That was true. I love that song. Isley Brothers, love it. Good stuff.
Okay. Well, let's just let it go there. The Isley Brothers is by a guy named Tyrone Davis from the city of Chicago.
Love that song, though.
Yeah. Turn back the... Want me to sing a little bit?
No.
Okay. I don't either. I don't want to destroy a great song.
Well, now you got to.
If I could turn back the hands to... Now, wait. Now I'm going to pretend Ernie Isley was in the background. I'm going to wheel. There is no great guitar in Turn Back the Hands of Time. If I could turn back the hands of time. It's more of a drum thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. You're totally right. So you say a redo for Christmas. That's what Lightfoot wants.
She wants to turn back the hands of time and go back to a moment in time which she could claim with, some credibility that she actually cared about what happened to Anjanette Young. Yeah, as opposed to rewriting history.
All right.
As she zips along her merry way.
I was going to say something like kitchenette set, but yeah, sure. A redo's cool. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I like that. That's good. After the release of the botched police raid video involving one Anjanette Young being handcuffed naked in her own apartment while doing nothing wrong at all, and after the mayor was caught lying about it, Mayor Lori Lightfoot has been on Operation Win Back the Public's Trust, and she's been cleaning up the mess that she left behind.
Yeah.
On Monday, Chicago's top lawyer, Mark Flessner, resigned over the Anjanette Young raid. Celia Meza, the mayor's counsel and senior ethics advisor, will replace Flessner on an interim basis. Lightfoot then announced that the Chicago police officers who were involved in the botched 2019 raid on Anjanette Young's home have all been assigned to desk duty. No, not desk duty. Not sitting at your desk all day, making probably the same amount of money. No. Well, the cleanup continues. Shout out to Illinois Politico and Shia Kapos here. Mayor Lori Lightfoot tapped former federal judge Ann Claire Williams on to lead an outside investigation into how the raid on Anjanette Young's home was handled. And that now brings us to the mayor's city council. But Ben, before we go there, what do you think about Ann Claire Williams here taking the lead?
Well, how the raid was handled. Let's just start there. It was handled abysmally. Everybody knows that now. So it's really not the raid itself that's in question. I mean, we all know. The video showed that the police realized at the end of the raid, oops, they had the wrong house. And the raid itself showed that from the very moment the police busted their way into that home, that there was something wrong. Like they were confronted not by like a bad guy with I don't know who they expected to find. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just alluded to the Batman. So it wasn't like Jack Nicholson as the Joker was in the apartment with a bunch of machine guns. It was a woman who was naked. And clearly it should have been obvious, like within the first, 30 seconds oops, they made a mistake. But no, they kept it going. They put her in handcuffs. They searched the room like Jack Nicholson's character was hiding under the bed. You know what I'm saying? And then after they even dawned on them that they made a mistake, they allowed her to put her shirt on. They took off the handcuffs and then they put them back on again. So yeah, there's no doubt the raid was handled abysmally. So I don't know what investigation needs to be done there. Now, the investigation as to what happened with the raid and the impact it had on Anjanette Young's life is part of the lawsuit. That's why Anjanette Young sued the city in the first place, to get the city to admit that it had made a mistake, or at least pay a price for having made a mistake. That is supposed to be stuff that would emerge from lawsuit. A lawsuit that, I might add, Lori Lightfoot's administration was battling tooth and nail from start to finish. So if they really wanted to investigate how the city handled the raid, they could have done so in the lawsuit instead of fighting the lawsuit. So now they're kind of like having a parallel investigation. So the real issue, I think that the most compelling issue, is what is the mayor's attitude towards such kinds of litigation? Is she going to feel like her inner corporate lawyer and battle vociferously anybody who dares to sue the city of Chicago on the grounds that I want to protect the taxpayers, I want to protect the payout? If that's okay, she should come out and say, we don't need Judge Ann Williams to do an investigation on that front. She should say that. She should say, guys, I was fighting hard to protect your pocketbook. That's what I was doing. And I stand by what I did, instead of pretending like she opposed what she did. So now she's going to have her own personal investigator investigate what she did. Huh? You know what you did? Why do you need an investigator to say what you did? You know? I mean, she knows whether she was aware of the video's existence. Remember her press statement on Tuesday, a week ago. Today, I became aware of the incident involving Ms. Anjanette Young, and I saw the video today for the first time. I had no knowledge of either until today. I had a very emotional reaction to what was depicted on the video, as I imagine that many people did. End of quote. Well, now it turns out that somebody told you about it. You weren't curious to look deeper into it after someone told you about it? You just forgot it? Somebody told you that there was a video involving a police raid in which a woman is essentially held captive by, what was it, a dozen men or Chicago police officers. It may have been a woman and police officer in the crew. While she pleaded with them to leave her house, that they had made a mistake. You were aware, but that somehow didn't make an impact on you then in November, but it did now. I mean, you could say that. You don't need Ann Williams to investigate that. So this seems, it just has the sense of like a public relations maneuver. The mayor's really concerned to get to the bottom of things. Well, you're getting at the bottoms of things that you know already. You don't need to hire a federal investigator. We need a special investigation of the Ben Joravsky show to determine what Ben was thinking when he woke up this morning. And this federal investigator will be completely free to ask Ben any question that she wants to ask him. Why do I need an investigator to ask me questions about things I already know? And by the way, it's not the only investigator. We have an inspector general. And I always make fun of the city of Chicago. It's a feast or famine when it comes to investigations, D. It's like some things never. I still would like an investigation of what Mayor Daley was up to with the parking meter deal. It's only 10 years old, 11 years old. We're still paying for it. We've never had a credible investigation of that. Overwhelming vote in the Chicago City Council without people even reading the bill. Give Scotty Wagasback credit. He stood up and said it's a ripoff. We're still paying for it. We'll be paying for it for years. Never investigation of that. It's like, you ever notice like the stuff you really want an investigation for, you never get an investigation? I still want an investigation for Popcorn Gate, which we'll be discussing when we do the Gates of Hell. Like who knew what and when about the police officer in Bobby Rush's congressional office. But there was an investigation of Eddie Johnson by the Inspector General. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office didn't want us to see that. I'd like to see that investigation. But now we're going to have like tons of investigations of the Anjanette Young case. And my feeling is that the Lori Lightfoot, I hope I'm wrong, by the way, about this, what I'm about to say. But the Lori Lightfoot investigation is not going to be the investigation with the good stuff, if there is any good stuff. So you would need another investigation, like the Inspector General's investigation, which is an independent body in the city of Chicago. I'd love to see that investigation. We'll see if Lori Lightfoot will release that investigation. We'll see what the Inspector General determines as opposed to what Ann Williams determines. So, D, it's like feast or famine. We have a ton of and then there's the city council. It's the legislative body is supposed to be a check and a balance on the executive body, so they could do their own investigation. So now Mayor Lori Lightfoot's going to do her own investigation, D, of what she already knows. Oh, I'm going to have this former federal judge, investigate me. Okay. Sounds good. D, it's all about the Chicagoans. Just sort of, Chicagoans are going to get tired of the story and give up and go back to their, ketchup-less hot dogs, and they'll be happy if their garbage gets collected. Go ahead, D.
Well, I actually did an investigation on myself, and I'll share my results with you. I'm awesome.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I have no reason to doubt anything in your investigation of yourself, D. And I did an investigation, and I discovered that no one calls you Dr. D except for me.
Oh, my goodness. Finally.
Can we edit that last part out? Just edit it
Absolutely. All right. So now to the mayor's city council. We talked about this on Friday. A handful of Chicago aldermen and women called for an emergency meeting with the mayor and top brass about the release and delay and the lying about the Anjanette Young video. The meeting went down. We have the details, and someone was missing from the meeting.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
But people, right before the holiday, it's time for another episode of everyone's favorite Chicago political soap opera. Yes, it is time for A Mayor and Her Alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
If you want to talk about a separate issue, there will be a time and a place for that, but you are out of order, sir.
That was just a week ago. She was mad at Byron Cicero Lopez because guess what? He had a question about Anjanette Young. She wasn't taking any questions now. Now she's going to launch an investigation. I guess it's not out of order anymore. Okay. Oh, Lord, what a city.
Shout out to WBEZ and Claudia Morell for giving us the details here. Several Chicago aldermen said Tuesday that the systems of accountability created in the wake of the Laquan McDonald murder failed Anjanette Young in 2019 when police entered her home and handcuffed her. You know the whole story of what went down. That was the main takeaway from some aldermen who took part in a day-long hearing questioning Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown, Civilian Office of Police Accountability Chief Administrator Sidney Roberts, and others tasked with investigating police misconduct. And as we mentioned, not at this meeting, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Ben, is that a big deal? She should have been there, right?
Absolutely. She said she wants to get to the bottom of things. Look, there's some parallels to Madigan Gate here. You know, Lori Lightfoot, like Michael Madigan, doesn't want to give the legislative body any credibility in terms of its power to investigate her. Michael Madigan didn't want to give that special committee of the House of Representatives or the State House any credibility investigating him. Remember that? So he stonewalled that one. So here, Lori Lightfoot, she's going to have this judge do the investigation. Well, what about showing up at a city council meeting and telling them what you know? No, she don't want to do that. No. Don't want to give them any credibility. It was just a week ago, as we pointed out. Alderman Byron Sixto Lopez stood up at a city council meeting where the mayor was asking the alderman to approve other police settlements having to do with police brutality matters, police roughing up citizens. And he raised the issue of Ann Jeanette Young and the raid on her home, which is just fresh in everybody's mind. And this was before that Lori Lightfoot had done the total conversion into really caring about it. This was still when she was sort of in the, quote, since the matter is the subject of litigation in an open COPA investigation, I will have no further comment stage of her existence on this issue. And so she told him, you're out of order, no questions. Now she's got a judge doing an investigation. So yeah, this is her way of telling the city council that I don't view you as a legitimate partner in the administration of the city of Chicago. You are essentially an adjunct to the mayor's office. And so I am not showing up to your investigation or your hearing or whatever. I'm not giving you any credibility. Could you imagine the feeding frenzy of the press if Lori Lightfoot showed up for the virtual, I presume it was virtual, obviously, meeting and answered questions under oath? Well, I don't know if she would be under oath. I don't know if they would swear her in. Could you just imagine? That would just keep it going. And they would be like, Byron Sixto Lopez would be grilling her. I'm like, what did she know? When did she know? And why did she say X on one day and then Y on the next day? No, come on. Dude, we would have all the, oh my goodness, we would have all the recordings of it. We'd be playing. Dave Glowacz would come on the show next week and he would go, Dennis, play Lori Lightfoot's explanation. And then we would riff on it. So yeah, she doesn't want that. Just a private investigation where by her hand-picked investigator, which will produce a report that will say the mayor is wonderful. Yeah.
By the way, David Glowacz sounds nothing like that.
And by the way, David Glowacz is, as we speak, preparing for a show that will happen next week, right? No. I've missed. Oh my God, D. Time is drifting away from me because of the holidays. The first Tuesday after the New Year's. So looking forward to that one, Dave Glowacz.
All right, so we have some quotes from what went down at this meeting. First up, it's Alderwoman Maria Hadden. Ben of what ward?
Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 48, 49th.
Whatever that was, but that was correct. All right, so it says here, Alderwoman Maria Hadden said it seemed Ann Jeanette Young's case had fallen through the cracks. Though the raid happened early last year, COPA didn't open an investigation until November when Young filed a civil suit against the city. We had a bit of back and forth here. Here's the quote from Hadden, quote, "Why weren't we dealing with this sooner? The truth of the matter is that it's just all too common for Chicagoans in black and brown communities to have our rights violated, to have our homes invaded, and to be humiliated and treated as less than human." Roberts, from the COPA, said that the COPA wasn't even made aware of the incident until a reporter asked whether there was an open case regarding the wrong raid on Young's home, saying, quote, "Our staff reviewed our database and found out we did not have an open case. We found out kind of in a non-traditional manner," which then led Ben's alderman, Matt Martin of the 47th Ward, to respond with, quote, "Yeah, I think that's about as polite way as you can put it." Martin said the lack of notice from the city's law and police departments was, quote, "incredibly problematic." Ben, your thoughts here?
Well, clearly, and by the way, I just have to give a shout out to PC, Peter Cunningham, who always comes on the show as the centrist, the representative, sort of the Rahm wing of the Democratic Party. But I think hanging around Dennis has turned him into a lefty. Hanging around me has turned him into a lefty. He wrote a column in today's Bright One that was really hard on the Chicago Police Department, and it sounded like something that would run in the Reader, but it ran in the Sun-Times. Anyway, shout out to PC. But yeah, obviously, there's nobody really watching. There's no one policing the police, if you will, to take the next step. And it's just, there's just this whole history in Chicago And this is really going to be a challenge for the city of Chicago to address. The whole relationship between police and the black community, this goes back to the early part of the last century, even before I was born. That's how long ago it is. This whole negative hostile relationship between the police and the black community, and just the relative indifference that the city has toward cases of police abuse against black people until they're forced, kicking and screaming because of a lawsuit. You know, the person who got beat up or mistreated or killed, his family, in which case, hires a lawyer, and the lawyer sues the city and demands records be turned over, and there's a battle in court, and a judge rules on behalf of the lawyer, and records get released. And that's essentially how it's been happening in Chicago forever. And so they set up a system that was supposed to oversee it all. And obviously, D, it's not doing a very good job. I mean, right now, the mayor's best defense is that she was absolutely clueless about what her administration was doing. That's her best defense. I didn't know. Other people were acting on their own without telling me what they were doing. So if that's your best defense, it's kind of a weak defense. So yeah, this is an old story in Chicago, D. The city only does the right thing if they're forced to, kicking and screaming.
All right, and then comes hands down the coolest alderperson of the bunch, 20th Ward Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. My God, she's a breath of fresh air and much needed in this city council. WBEZ goes on to write, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor was more brash in her assessment, calling the investigative agency, quote, professional time wasters.
JT.
When no one could answer who gets fired for not knowing that the offender CPD was looking for during the Young raid lived a couple doors down from Young's home with an electronic tracking band on his leg, once again calling them professional time wasters. Taylor shouted in the virtual hearing, quote, so why are we even on this call? Because you all haven't been able to answer anything that we're actually asking. Yeah. And then when Taylor asked why the cops involved in raiding the wrong house weren't immediately suspended, it was Chicago top cop superintendent David Brown's time to shine. Now, Brown has been the superintendent for not even a year, but in his response, David Brown is showing us that he is definitely starting to get the hang of how to handle tough questions in the city of Chicago. Yeah. He's learning. Brown quipped back at Jeanette Taylor by throwing the guy who had the job before him immediately under the bus. Brown's response, quote, you will have to talk or you will have to ask Eddie Johnson.
Yeah.
He's getting there.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that David Brown is a fast learner. Oh, let's see. We could just blame everything on Eddie Johnson, Eddie Johnson.
Right.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot blames everything on Eddie Johnson.
It's looking more. You're giving more Chicago in quotes every day there, Mr. Brown. Just throw in some profanity next time, and you'll be right there. I don't know, like you'll have to ask Eddie Johnson about that shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Then that's that's the Chicago way, right?
You know, it's funny. I don't know. I've lost track of time, so I can't remember when Eddie Johnson left. But I would venture, let's see, February 2019 was when the raid happened. So I would have to create a timeline.
I think it was October of 2019 when the video came out, right? And then like towards the end of the year, 2019.
Which video?
Which video? No, Eddie Johnson.
Oh, okay, yes. So you're right, that video. How can I forget? Yeah, I get my videos mixed up. But yeah, the Eddie Johnson video. So Eddie's been gone pretty much all of 2020. You know, so I don't know, David Brown. This lawsuit's been proceeding in Europe this year. But you notice he throws Eddie Johnson under the bus? He doesn't throw Mayor Lightfoot under the bus. That's a fast learner. Let's see. I could throw under the bus my boss Or I could throw under the bus my predecessor, who knows where he is and nobody cares about him. May have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. Oh, it's Eddie Johnson's fault. Eddie Johnson. Any question asked, answer Eddie Johnson.
Brown said the Chicago Police Department conducts about 1,500 searches in a given year, adding that there aren't enough resources to review the camera footage for each one. Instead, he said police body camera footage is reviewed in a randomized way. So,
yeah. All I know is somebody filed a lawsuit about it, and I'll tell you what, for people who didn't review the footage, they sure knew enough to fight to keep the public from reviewing it. Isn't that funny, D? They didn't have time to review it because there's so much footage to review, but they knew enough to keep the public from seeing it. Come on, David Brown. Just blame it on Eddie Johnson. It's Eddie Johnson's fault. As I recall, Eddie Johnson looked at the footage and said, oops, don't show this to anyone. Just blame it on EJ. He's not around to defend himself.
yeah.
Can you blame it on Mayor Rahm? There's got to be some way they could blame Mayor Rahm. You know what I'm saying, D? Some way.
He just starts doing that every time now in the future. David Brown, anything you'd like to say about what went down here? Hey, you guys remember that Eddie Johnson tape? Oh, my God.
Yeah, man. Eddie J's a quick learner, David Brown. Gotta give him credit.
But those were the details of what happened at that emergency meeting. Ben, quick question. Approximately how much of a waste of time was that meeting?
Whole thing. And, Lori Lightfoot didn't show up. She sent her aides. I don't know. So let's see if their memory clears up when Judge Williams asks the questions. Lori Lightfoot's investigator. I see. Lori Lightfoot was too busy to cooperate with the city council investigation, but don't fear, Chicago. She hired her own investigator. Let's hope she finds the time, to sit down with her own investigator. Are they going to throw David Brown out? You go talk to the investigator. Oh, okay. Well, it's Eddie Johnson's fault.
And in her defense, I heard for Christmas she did get the DVD series of her favorite show.
When I was a kid, I loved the Batman TV show.
So,
Yeah, you think Batman would put up with this? You think Batman would just roll over? Would Batman blame it on Superman? Okay, or some other, Flash? No, Batman would take responsibility if something bad was happening in the Batcave.
So there it was. What will happen next week? Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. It's a mayor and her alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
I want an answer. It's not something to ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think
No offense, well, fuck you then.
Hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Happy holidays.
Don't you wish Lori Lightfoot had shown up just to have that exchange with Raylo, just out in the public for everyone? Come on, entertain the people. By the way, do you have any more updates on this story? Because I got one I want to share.
No, that's
do you
it.
have any updates?
That's it.
All right, hold on. Let me get my tribute on. And one more time, Gregory Pratt, you have been killing it on this story. And you had some help as well. I give a shout out to John Byrne and Jason Meissner of the Tribune who helped Gregory Pratt out in this particular story. Botch raids, ripples spread. So they talk about how, Lori Lightfoot picked Judge Williams to do an investigation. She selected her investigator. Meanwhile, guess who's... Okay, the police raid the house and harass a poor innocent woman. The mayor knows nothing about it. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I know nothing. The guy in the biggest hot water is who? The lawyer for Anjanette Young. This is unbelievable. Only in Chicago, ladies and gentlemen. What a city we live in. So follow me on this. The lawyer for Anjanette Young, Keenan Salter is his name, was the gentleman who turned the videotape over to CBS. Now, let me just remind you, we wouldn't know anything about this if Dave Savini and the CBS reporting crew hadn't aired the video. And they wouldn't have aired the video if Keenan Salter, the lawyer, hadn't turned it over to him. Well, apparently the city had agreed to turn over, I should say, the video to Keenan Salter and Anjanette Young for their lawsuit. If it was Keenan Salter would not reveal it to anyone else. There was a confidentiality agreement. Classic confidentiality agreement. The city made him, how about this for openness? The city made him agree not to release the tape, and he did release it. He violated it, and now he's in hot water with the judge. Federal judge, city asked for sanctions against him, have him punished. And then when the story blew up, Lori Lightfoot said, "Oh, I don't want him punished anymore." And the judge is like, "No, that's not good enough. He violated the confidentiality agreement." So he got Salter, the lawyer, in court for nearly an hour-long hearing. I'm reading from the Tribune, apologizing repeatedly for his decision, saying he made a significant mistake and could have handled it differently. How could he have handled it differently? How would we have known the truth if he hadn't released it? This is like whistleblower harassment. Remember when Lori Lightfoot was grilling, one of her finest moments, I don't know if you remember this, D, Mayor Pete, about disclosure states, non-disclosure agreements that Mayor Pete's McKinsey firm used to make with its employees. Like, people want to know, who did you represent, Mayor Pete, when you were working for McKinsey? He goes, well, there's these non-disclosure agreements I signed. And Lori Lightfoot, when she was grilling him, said, those things are worthless. Why do you even sign them? Yeah, different attitude when it comes to releasing this police video. So Salter's in court. He's getting heat from this judge. Suddenly the judge is the hang 'em high judge. This is what the judge said. I'm still somewhat at a loss as to understand how an experienced lawyer like Mr. Salter could, upon review of this order, conclude that it was appropriate or proper to disclose the video recordings to a news agency or any other third party. If the answer is we were confused and thought we were entitled to it under state law, that doesn't do a whole lot to alleviate my concerns. You know, maybe the honest answer is, you know what? I didn't think there would be any justice done in this case unless I released it. So I guess I have to be accountable. They're gonna throw him in jail? Gonna take away his law license? Because he told the truth? He revealed the truth? The only guy getting punished right now is the guy who's responsible for knowing about the story. That and Eddie Johnson. You know what? Kenny Salter should have told the judge, Your Honor, Eddie Johnson made me release that tape. It's Eddie Johnson's fault. What a city, D. What a city. The good guy in the story is the one who's in trouble. Welcome to Chicago, ladies and gentlemen.
By the way, get your bets in now, everybody. When will the email exchange drop of what went down? Right, Ben?
Yeah, Mick Dumpke and I were talking about that. Yeah, Mayor Lori Lightfoot says they're going right through that email right now because they want everyone to know absolutely every detail. My guess is, well, it could drop tomorrow night. Isn't tomorrow night Christmas Eve, D?
Yep, tomorrow night's Christmas Eve.
Hey, Greg Pratt over at the Tribune. Yeah, you think you're such a hot shot with your investigative reporting? Well, investigate this, my friend, on Christmas Eve. And then, you know, Pratt ferociously going through all these emails, writes this great story that drops on Christmas Day, and nobody is paying any attention. Lori Lightfoot goes, yeah, she learned that one from Rahm, too. But I don't know, D. I told Mick Dumpke yesterday in an interview, I go, you know what? I'm going to give her credit. I think she's going to wait till after the New Year's because it's the right way to do it. And she's, you know, she doesn't want to disrupt Greg Pratt's Christmas dinner or Christmas Eve dinner or Christmas Day with his family. Doesn't want to make things difficult for the reporters of Chicago. And she wants the public to really be paying attention because it's really important that everybody know all the details. So she's not going to drop it on a holiday. How about that, D? I'm looking on the bright side. I'm not going to be cynical and jaded and typical Chicago reporter, okay?
Wow. The show will never be the same.
She's going to drop it on like January 6th. Christmas will be gone. The New Year's will be gone. Greg Pratt and all the other journalists in Chicago will have had a wonderful time with their families. Now you guys free. The public's really paying attention. All eyes will be on this drop of emails. Now she'll release them. That's what she's going to do, D. Yep. Take that to the bank, young Dennis.
All right, glass half full over at the Joravsky household. I'm saying that the email exchange, like I said yesterday, gets released New Year's Eve, like 10 minutes before the new year, while everybody's all pumped up and excited, not thinking about it at all, you know? Bam.
Get to work, Pratt. That'll be the New Year's Eve drop.
The next thing you know, you're just flooded with all these best of 2020 or worst of 2020 stories all over the paper, and then right there at the bottom, the email exchange.
Yeah, that would. Yeah. Well, that's how the game is usually played in Chicago. We'll see if Lori Lightfoot changes the script.
All right. Well, I guess the mayor still has more mess to clean up, and we'll keep you posted on that all throughout the new year. Let's go to the live stream chat real quick. Jim weighed in. And Jim, I agree. The Lightfoot and Raylo clip is probably the clip of the year.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think we
No offense, well, fuck you then.
Never gets old.
Oh, never gets old. Sometimes I just find myself, like at late at night when I'm walking, I just start doing it. I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. I think you're 100% full of shit. That's what I think. What?
All right. And also Jay Marie on the live stream chat. Jay Marie, we love you. Have a happy holiday. She mentioned David Brown and says, yeah, this guy's going to get thrown under the bus soon enough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw what happened to Flessner, the lawyer. Here's the issue. Did Flessner know about it and not mention it to Lori Lightfoot? Judge Ann Williams, that's a good question to ask. That's a good question to ask. Now, see, I don't know if Judge Ann Williams has any subpoena authority. So I don't know if she could require Flessner to participate. You know what I'm saying? To answer her questions. I don't know if she has any subpoena authority. But yeah. David Brown will probably get the Flessner treatment. Not what do you think? 2021 D? When's the next mayoral election? 2023. So yeah, he'll probably get the Flessner treatment, the Eddie Johnson treatment. You're gone. The Gary Big Mac McCarthy treatment. Mayor Ron blamed the Raquan McDonald video burial on Big Mac. Remember that, D?
Oh,
Big
yeah.
Mac never
Oh,
got
yeah.
over it.
I think it's all in what's in these emails, right? Or what's not in these emails, I guess.
That's the problem. You can't be 100% sure that the emails that any entity of government turns over are the full and complete emails, and there's redactions on top of that. In fact, the Chicago Tribune had to go to court. I think it was the Tribune. Had to go to court to find out what was redacted in the emails about Lori Lightfoot's bet. Remember that one? I don't know if we talked about that. Didn't make the top 10 list, Betgate. That's the one where Lori Lightfoot and one of the negotiators for the Chicago Public Schools made a bet as to whether there would be a strike or how long the strike would be, the teacher strike would be. And it showed a certain kind of dark humor about the whole thing. Like they weren't really taking it seriously. And they were the city was trying to keep the Tribune from seeing that email exchange. And finally, the Tribune won. I forget what level of court they won. And lo and behold, look what we've discovered. So, there'll be redactions and then probably emails that don't get included. Like the great Ricky Hendon always says, there's the meeting, and then there's the meeting before the meeting, and then there's the meeting before the meeting. Well, there's the emails, and then there's the emails that somehow or other don't get in the mix. And nobody really knows,
All right, I got about 60 emails talking about luncheons. Where's the stuff I'm looking for here?
I'm sorry. I overlooked that. It was Eddie Johnson's fault. Eddie Johnson.
And
yes, indeed.
Finally, we'll talk Kyle's comment on the live stream chat. Kyle has an idea here. He says Ben Joravsky should write Greg Pratt a holiday card.
Yes. Well, we're negotiating with Mr. Pratt's representatives to have him on the show
Well, I think a holiday card would win him over. And Kyle has a suggestion for what could be included in the holiday card. Very heartfelt here. Thank you, Kyle, for weighing in here. He says it'll just be a picture of Lori Lightfoot giving the middle finger, stating, "Investigate this! Happy holidays, jerk!"
We should save that for when Greg Pratt comes on. He's, by the way, the president. He was just recently elected president of the Tribune's union, the guild. So congratulations to Gregory Pratt. It's been a busy time for him. So yes, we'll probably have him on the show sometime mid-January. So we'll be talking about all kinds of things. But let's keep that in line and see if he what he has to say about that image of Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
All right, and once again, Kyle, happy holidays. Hope everything is good for you, bud. And hey, that's our local news, but you should join us after today's show at about 5 o'clock. Our Ben Joravsky Show Top 10 Local Story Countdown begins. And because, well, the year just sucked ass, it is the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell.
The 10 Gates.
Oh, my God.
Of Illinois Hell.
Oh, my. It's going to be happening about 5 p.m. We're going to live stream it, and it will be available for download at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts.
Dennis, I just want to say one last thing before we take a break and bring Monroe on to talk national politics, Trump, and more Trump. The back page of my beloved Bright One says it all for me. It's, of course, the start of the Bulls season, and there's a picture of the new Bulls coach, Billy Donovan, and it says Billy's Bulls, full page photo, and I'm showing everybody, but of course nobody can see it because I don't have a camera in my monitor. I'm gonna get one though, and actually nobody can see it anyway because wait, time out, D, aren't we gonna be? Isn't that one of our New Year's resolutions that come 2021 in the year 2021? We're gonna start. Doing a video of the show. Isn't that something we discussed in one of our pre-show?
Yeah, absolutely. But first step, we got to get you that monitor.
Yeah, first step, the monitor. Second step, fix the camera. Our camera's broken.
And oh my God! And I tell you what, let's put that Billy Donovan story on hold because we do have more Pritzker news to talk as well. We'll do it for the back half.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got something from Miles Conflassen that he has to play, so we'll do that in the back half.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, while we wait for Monroe Anderson, remember, you can send us an email. Always, BennyJShow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J Show, @gmail.com. You can find us on social media @BennyJShow. And you can call us as well, 708-658-4788. That number again is 708-658-4788. Leave us a voicemail. Give us some Bulls trivia. You want something? I don't know. Speaking of the Bulls, Joan, our good friend Joan, weighed in on email. She sent us an email. You can do the same, BennyJShow@gmail.com. She gave her prediction for the Bulls season. She says, Stacey King says at least 40 wins for the Bulls. I think that's a little too optimistic. She says it'll be 35 wins for the Chicago Bulls this year.
All right, John, I'm writing it down. We're doing, I've got a lot of different people weighing in on this, so I'm writing it down. We haven't figured out what the winner gets, if anything, other than a hearty handshake. But 35
well, it's
wins.
Pandemic. We're not shaking anyone's hands.
All right, an elbow tap. How about that?
There we go.
We'll figure something out. Our crack team of producers, assistants to Dennis will figure something out.
All right, so there you go, guys. And we're going to take a quick break here. We got Monroe Anderson with us. And after this song from Ricky Hendon, we're talking with Monroe.
Let me be your fantasy. Baby, like the tree, I will be all that you need. Unwrap you underneath the mistletoe. We can sip some wine, kiss you from head to toe. Baby, don't you ever let me go. I want you to know it's alright. Wishing you'd be my boo. Can you please be my Christmas? Come wrap your arms around me. Wishing please can you be with me, baby, on this Christmas? Step this way. Come on, baby, ride with me in my sleigh. Tonight we're gonna party, girl. It's time to play. Baby, yeah, you gon' do it on Christmas Day and go all the way. Merry Christmas, baby. 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 Feliz Navidad, baby. Feliz Navidad. Wishing you be my boo. Can you please be my Christmas? Be my Christmas, baby. Be my Christmas, baby. Wishing please can you be with me, baby, on this Christmas? I got something very nice for you. And got your shorty baby too, baby. Your stuff, my stuff, right here, baby. Your stuff, my stuff, right here, baby. We want some gifts.
Big problems.
Gotta have some gifts. Yo. We want some gifts.
Big problems.
Gotta have some gifts. Yo.
This little light of mine.
Big problems. Big problems. Big problems become big problems. You let small problems sit.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to party on Christmas Day. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to party on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, everybody! Be my boo, can you please be my Christmas?
When I was a kid, I loved the Batman TV show.
I got you your Christmas wish. Santa gave me your wristband. Come wrap your arms around me. Wishing you'd be my boo.
Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by the Chicago Reader and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
Every Wednesday on the Ben Joravsky Show, Monroe Anderson joins us. Monroe Anderson, the pride and joy of Gary, Indiana, former journalist for the Sun-Times, for the Chicago Tribune, Channel 2, former press secretary to Eugene Sawyer, and he knows everything about politics in the universe, and particularly Trump. So, Monroe, I'm going to read your Facebook promotion, pretty funny stuff, and then we'll take it from there, all right?
Okay.
Should the 25th Amendment be put to use right now? Yes, I say. Is lame duck Donald too mad to be allowed to have, the nuclear code in his hip pocket? How far will his double madness, angry and nuts, go? Why is he threatening to veto the COVID rescue legislation? Why is he pardoning some cold-blooded murderers while speeding up the federal execution of others? Ben and I will breaking it all down on the Ben Joravsky Show. Absolutely, some good questions here. Is Donald Trump crazy, or is there a method to his madness? We'll start with that general question, Monroe, and take it from there.
He's speechless.
He's frozen.
It is cold outside.
I'm looking at an image of Monroe. Of course, this will all get edited out, but I don't know. We may just keep this in.
No, this is good.
For people on the who listen to the podcast, get an idea of what a live show is like. I'm looking at an image of Monroe Anderson, and it's like kind of a grin on his face. Is just about to start talking, but he's not talking. So what do you think? Do you think his phone? Yep, he's left the meeting.
I bet he'll join us back. He'll join back with us.
You think he'll come right back to us there and then?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And
so
I will send an extra email to him just in case. And you know.
Here he is. Boy, that right on time. Monroe? Monroe Anderson, please.
We got a muted microphone, Mr. Monroe.
Uh-oh.
Okay, don't say uh-oh.
Uh-oh. It's always compelling drama when one of our guests has the muted microphone. Who was the one, the guest? I can't remember.
Let's not throw our guests under the bus. Monroe, are you there?
He's got the muted microphone. Should I call him and tell him his microphone? Let's have some fun with this.
And I think he's going to be joining us here. I got good faith in Monroe. I think he's going to do this. He's been doing it every time. All right, now I'll delete this one.
Whoa,
there we go.
There we go.
I lost my internet.
Oh, I've been there.
You found it. That's the good news.
Exactly.
All right.
It was on the computer in a hidden spot somewhere.
Well, the good news is that before we drop this as a podcast, we can edit all that out and no one will ever know. Yeah, and in terms of the live show, it's just a little excitement, a little spice in the broth. All right, Monroe, so I don't know if you heard my question. Is he insane, or is there a method to Donald Trump's madness?
I think both. He's insane, but there's a method to this. Were there methods with an S? Method one is that he's upset with the Republicans in general, leadership, because they haven't been on TV defending him, talking about how the election was stolen from him, how wonderful and great he was. I mean, they're sort of fading away. And method two is Joe Biden has been getting all the oxygen in the room. And so this was a way for him to get back in the media's attention, if only for so briefly.
Well, the part about this that could get him the most credibility with Americans, if he sticks to his guns and forces Congress to raise the allowance from 600 to 2,000. And from the get-go, Monroe, I never thought he was going to stick to his guns on this one and make this like an issue that he would go to the mat.
It's not a matter of the mat. It depends on which of the voices in his head is talking the loudest right now. Because there are Republicans, as I mentioned last week, Republicans have suddenly come down with a definite concern for the deficit.
Yeah.
And therefore, Mitch can't control them enough to make them go with the 2,000 for an individual, 4,000 for a couple. There are Republicans who are just not going to. They've come down with the deficit flu. Haven't had it for 4 years, but it struck them now, and so they're not going to go for it. And Mitch can't make them. I mean, not enough of them, because they would. If Trump does veto, then they're going to have to cancel his veto, vote to ignore it.
Well, let me just say this.
Yeah.
At the risk of sounding like a lunatic myself,
right.
There were several points that Donald Trump made that I found myself agreeing with. And when I say this, Monroe, I don't believe for 1 minute that Donald Trump has sincere convictions about any of those points.
No, Donald Trump has, the only thing Donald Trump has sincere convictions about is Donald Trump.
Exactly. So I understand that, but I will say this: it's like we talked about this briefly. It's almost a 6,000-page bill. Nobody can honestly say, no legislator can honestly say, with the possible exception. Well, no legislator can possibly say they've read every page. So they don't even know what they're.
Most of them, their staff hasn't read every.
Yes, page. Exactly, and so there's so much garbage in this bill. Like the New York Times had a front page story, which doesn't get nearly enough attention as it should, about buried in pandemic bill, billions to soothe the richest. And it's a tax break on top of a break they already got that will cost billions and billions of dollars. And so lefties, Bernie Sanders of the world, and the AOCs of the world are being asked to vote on a bill that includes a handout for the wealthiest people who don't need it, worth billions of dollars, whereas right now the bill only gives $600 to ordinary working class people or poor people. So that's hugely unfair. People don't know that it's in there. It's a combination. It's just like the old-fashioned bill making. You know all about it, where you throw everything in one bill at the end, rush it through, shut up, just vote for it, go home.
Yeah,
and
we need it. Yeah, we need it. So vote for it. Although I have all sorts of goodies hanging off of it.
Yes. And so he raises a good point. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason that has happened is because it's been combined with the bill necessary to keep the government running.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yes.
Yeah, they've become one. And so it's very difficult to not vote for, because you're going to end up closing the government down, the U.S. government, and letting people who are literally starving starve some more.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult. And the problem is, you think Trump is going to buckle. I'm not so sure. I mean, normally I would say yes, but in his final days of insanity, he may just be going for a full-blown madness instead.
And veto the bill.
Yes.
In which case, and as you pointed out before we went on the air, most of the congressmen and the senators have gone back to their home states, their home districts. Right. So they're not even in Washington. It would be a massive headache to reconvene them. Now, Nancy Pelosi is talking about making the changes, raising 600 to 2,000 as part of essentially a voice vote. But that requires unanimity. Everyone's got to say. And Mitch McConnell can't round up enough Republicans.
Well, no. This is the thing. The House can vote via Zoom on it, whereas the Senate, you have to be in the Senate. That's their rule. So which means all the senators are lit enough for a quorum would have to come back. And and everybody's. I mean, it's bad enough that you're flying, and we have this little pandemic going on. You're in an airplane, you're in an airport, you're exposing yourself to the virus. I mean, this is just like, they will be talking about this in history classes 75 years from now. This is so wild. And in the meantime, you have Mitch McConnell's concern has been Georgia.
Yeah.
And the two Republican senators there are really at a catch-22, because they were just boasting about getting the $600 for all their people. They voted for it and they're delivering for them. But if Trump vetoes the bill, then they won't be getting the money.
Yeah.
And plus, because Trump has said he'd rather give them $2,000 or $4,000 instead of $600.
Yeah.
There was this woman who was interviewed on MSNBC, this black woman, who said, they asked her about the $600. She said that it's better than nothing. At least it'll pay for her hotel bill after she gets evicted.
Mm.
I mean, this is just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's only getting worse because Trump is still entertaining the idea of on June 6th, when the electoral college does the vote, that his
January, when January 6th. Yeah.
January. Sorry, June. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, January 6th, when the vote goes down, that there will be some rebel Republicans who will vote for him instead of Biden, which will deliver the vote to him. And that's not going to happen. But Trump is listening to Giuliani and Sydney, what's the crazy woman?
Powell.
Powell. Yeah, Powell, Sidney Powell. Because he's gotten stranger and stranger and crazier. So his normal sycophants are going, wow, this is too much.
It's asking too much.
Yeah, exactly. Barr and Pitts are going, well, wait a minute, boss.
Yeah.
And so he's rounding up the craziest of crazy because they're saying, yeah, we can do this. We can do this, Mr. Trump.
Well, let's zero in on the dilemma that Republicans are facing, and I love it. They are facing this, and let's talk about Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, the two senators from Georgia who are up for re-election. And again, one more time, I know all my listeners know this, but if the Democrats win those two seats in Georgia, guess what? The Democrats take control of the Senate.
Right.
Mitch McConnell has lost his power. So it's really important to Mitch McConnell to win that election in Georgia. And Loeffler and Perdue were bragging that they had helped secure passage of the legislation that would give people $600 each. Then you're welcome, they were saying. You're welcome. I know you really thank and appreciate us. Now here comes Donald Trump going, $600 is chump change. I want it to be $2,000.
Right.
So what?
If you're a couple, it's $4,000.
Yeah.
$2,000 per person. Yeah.
So what do you do, Monroe Anderson, if you're David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler? The guy who controls MAGA has just said, your stimulus bill sucks. And MAGA's like, yeah, man, because they believe whatever Donnie says. So what do you do if you're Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue?
Check your stock portfolio and get as much insider stock market tips as you can to increase your wealth even more, because you're not going to have a job.
So you think they're going to lose because of this?
I think they're going to lose, period. But I've said that before.
Yeah.
But this hurts them. This hurts them even more. Because even anybody who was sort of on the fence and going, well, I don't want those socialists running our country.
Yeah.
Or going, well, I'm sitting in a food line in my car for 6 hours. And I never, ever thought I'd experience this. And it's Republicans' fault.
I really don't know how they're going to get out of this. Part of me doesn't care because it's their making, and the Republicans have been a diabolically evil bunch forever.
They're Frankenstein monster.
Yeah. So on the other hand, there's a lot at stake. I'm so offended by the billions that are buried in this bill that it's just a handout to the wealthiest people. That's just going through like an assembly line process. Part of me, I wouldn't vote for this bill. You know what I'm saying, Monroe? It's like I struggle with this process so much. And
this is what they had to do to win the Republicans over. This is how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And the one thing that the Republicans gave up was you will in fact be able to sue a company if they forced you to come to work without adequate protection.
Yeah.
And because they were trying to, Mitch didn't want to have any liability for corporations whatsoever.
And let me just say this. In addition, so that, yeah, the liability issue, Mitch had to drop.
Right.
Okay. But, and this is so perverse when I see people in Chicago, like the editorial boards repeating this, the Democrats had to drop a portion of the bill that would have sent a lot more aid to cities and states. And I hear this refrain from so much by the civic do-gooders in Chicago, who, as time goes on, Monroe, I find more and more annoying. And I know you found them really annoying when you had to deal with them when you were press secretary Eugene Sawyer. Because
I gave up on do-gooders back when I was in college.
Yeah, civic good, always looking out for every nickel and dime when it may benefit a black guy. You know what I'm saying? But look the other way when it's a handout to Amazon. But like this, the civic do-gooders who write the editorials are telling us the states should not be bailed out for the mismanagement of the government, of its politicians, and they must bear the responsibility for these past actions. And I'm like, hey, Monroe, Dennis, Ben, Del Marie, we're the ones who have to pay the cost for the mismanagement of past politicians. So why is it okay to bail out companies to the tune of billions and billions of dollars who don't even need it, but somehow or other, if you're going to come to the aid of Illinois, which is really helping Monroe, Dennis, Ben, and Del Marie,
and the police and the firemen and the
everybody, that's somehow or other, helping mismanaging politicians. Just the way do-gooders view the world, Monroe, and how so many Dems buy into it, I find really frustrating. Your thoughts?
I find it really frustrating. Yeah, this is the problem. There are real people in real pain right now. Mm-hmm. They couldn't afford to buy their kids Christmas gifts, toys. Santa Claus won't be coming to everybody's house in a couple of days. A lot of times they don't have food. Some of them are going to be out on the streets in Chicago in December or January. I mean, these are real. For those of us who are part of the investment class, or those of us who have jobs where we can work from home, and so it's not a big deal, then we are not suffering. But there are people who, if you look at the restaurants, because there's nothing for restaurants in this bill, and they are employers of many people, and it impacts more than the actual restaurant owners and cooks and waitresses. For example, I just had some firewood delivered from A1 Country Firewood. They supply a lot of Chicago restaurants with the wood for their to run their ovens. The wood ovens or what have you. Yeah. With those ovens are closed, so that's hurting their business. And you wouldn't think of a fireplace. A fire yard, mm-hmm. wood yard as a place that was impacted by this. Yeah. But it is, and we had a guy who delivered it. It impacts his job. He's making a little more than minimum wage, I imagine, but not much.
Monroe, it's been a while since I've been to your house, but I'm trying to remember the fireplace.
It's in my library.
Oh, okay. God, I didn't know you had a fireplace. I'm coming over. Oh, wait a minute. COVID.
I tell you what, we could make a deal. You let us have the keys for a week or two for your condo in Miami. And you come visit my fireplace, okay?
My condo in Miami, that's funny. First of all, I wouldn't even have, if I had the money to have a condo, wouldn't be in Miami. I can't stand the state of Florida, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty bad.
By the way, I'm not sure about there was a provision, and I've not seen. Obviously, I've not read the full 6,000-page bill, but there was a provision that was.
I'm just on page 4,200.
There was a proposal. I don't know what happened to it that would allow businesses to deduct the full amount of the bill if they went to a restaurant as a deduction. And that would have been like a backdoor way of subsidizing the restaurant industry, although really it would be a handout to the wealthiest people.
Right.
So I don't know if that was passed. I remember reading that provision, an article about that, and just shaking my head. Go, what a backdoor way to give rich people even more of a handout.
Oh yeah, no, there's this economist, I forget his name. I'm terrible on names in my old age, but anyway, he says that what we need to do is find the most destitute of the Americans, and give them $10,000, and skip all this giving the business owners money to resurrect their business, and they can pass it down to their employees. Give the money to the working people who really need it, who will go out immediately. This is how you boost the economy.
Yeah.
Give them $10,000. Let them go out and spend the $10,000, and they'll go to restaurants, they'll go to grocery stores, whatever. But that will determine, in a very capitalistic way, the survival of the fittest.
Well, and that's
money.
I think it was Paul Krugman that you're quoting. But anyway,
Krugman.
Was it Krugman?
This is some guy that I wasn't familiar. He's written a book on recovering. I think it's called "Recovering from COVID" or something.
Well, the point I was going to make is that Republicans, and this is where Donald Trump's latest bit of insanity is actually beneficial, because Republicans have always argued against the point that you just made.
No, I know.
They've always argued that would deter the work incentive of people and be counterproductive. Better that they be on the edge of starvation and destitution. That would give them a motivation to work, no matter what that work is. And
or our car hijack cars.
Yeah, that'll cost all the money to prosecute them, jail them, incarcerate them, etc. Okay, that's the Republican attitude. But if Donald Trump were to sign on to that, and I mean, he's heading in that direction, even in his fit, where he said raise the allowance to $2,000. If he goes there, it completely undermines the argument that the Ron Johnson, Senator McConnell, all the really annoying Republicans make to justify being cruel.
All the corporate socialists.
Yes. Meanwhile, they'll turn right around. They don't worry about deterring the work ethic of rich people who got their big paws out collecting money, but they worry about it. But if Donald Trump would do that, he would totally undermine their argument. And MAGA follows Donald Trump wherever he goes, starts saying, yes, give out those checks. Then that would be an existential moment, a bit of a momentary crisis for the Mitch McConnells of the world. I have no idea they would do a flip-flop. Like, if there was more time, if Donald Trump had actually legitimately cared about people who were on the edge.
He doesn't even know what to do. Except some things people told him. Yeah, he doesn't read anything longer than a tweet.
But my working theory, there's a lefty talk show host, Jimmy Dore, that I watch from time to time. And he has been arguing vehemently that the Democrats should rebel against their leadership because they're selling themselves off to corporate interests. And he's been urging Donald Trump to take the charge and take the lead on this. And sometimes I think that Donald Trump either watches the Jimmy Dore show or has somebody who watches the Jimmy Dore show. Or occasionally Jimmy Dore goes on Fox, and then Trump could probably see him there. But anyway, if Donald Trump were really to go in this direction, if he had been paying attention, Monroe, and a month ago had raised these issues, the Republicans would have had to sign on, and that allowance would be $2,000, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they because the Republican leadership class hates Trump, but fears his followers.
Yeah.
And so they go wherever Trump says go because the followers go wherever Trump says go. I mean, because you think of all the horrible things he's doing. You know, I mean, with the pardoning, I mean, there's no other president that would weeks out from the end of his term would pardon people for his personal interest, not out of the goodness of his heart, but he was pardoning people who had testified or refused to testify to help prove that he's the crook that he is. And he's and some of the pardons are like why he pardoned the soldiers that killed the Iraqis, the 17 Iraqis, innocent citizens. I have no idea, except it was good headlines for him, and he's pumping the prime. He's priming the pump.
Well, in general, if you've got to give any credibility to Trump, like a worldview that Trump has, one of the chief provisions of that worldview is that the American military never does anything wrong, and that American soldiers are always heroes. And if you were to try to hold soldiers accountable or responsible for the deaths that they cause in any way, even if it's like evidence of slaughter.
These were contractors. They weren't soldiers.
Yeah, but
this was Blackwater in the game.
I know. And by the way, Blackwater is owned by Betsy DeVos's brother, a big supporter of Trump. But just in general, that's just the ideology of Trumpism, that America is never wrong when it comes, unless it's an American official who's investigating him, but just American. So that's just 101. And Nixon had that. You and I are the only guys who know this. William Calley, if you recall, that Nixon pardoned Calley, who was accused of the leading the My Lai massacre back in the Vietnam War era. So it's just like a provision in the Republican Party that you never want to admit that American military is wrong. But yeah, the pardoning will stay, but I got a feeling he'll back off. Although I just saw this story flash across my phone. Trump vetoes massive defense spending bill. So that's happening right now while we've been on the air, Monroe. So they're going to have to deal with that, the implications of that.
See, this is part of his get back, his vengefulness. Because the defense spending, most of that defense spending is in Republican states.
Yeah.
In red states.
Yeah.
And so this is a way to smack them down.
Yeah. By the way, this was a study that Jack Goldsmith, Harvard Law School professor, came up with. I noted this yesterday. It was in the paper. Jack Goldsmith found that of 45 pardons or commutations Mr. Trump had granted up until Tuesday, 88% aided someone with a personal tie to the president or furthered his political aims. So there's a method to his madness. There's some strategy to it. You know, his purpose is to buy silence.
Right. And and this is going on with him right now. Completely, and that's he's rewarding his friends and punishing his enemies.
Yeah.
You know, so he's firing people and he's putting other people in positions. You know, when Biden takes over on January 20th, he's going to have to go through the entire federal structure because there are, in fact, true deep staters there now that Trump forced in there. You know, this whole deep state theory that the right wing had, basically the deep state was the federal government, the bureaucrats. But now we have some some crazy Trump nuts in positions that they're going to have to root out.
All right, before we leave Trump and go to Chicago, because I love to get your updates on Mayor Lori Lightfoot Gate. You mentioned this to me, naming an airport for Donald Trump.
Yes.
That would be kind of a mini nightmare.
Airport. Nobody else is talking about it.
I know you weren't talking about it.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Nobody in Congress is talking about it. Trump is inquiry about how he could get an airport named after him.
Can't possibly happen, right? Please tell me that.
I don't think so. I can't imagine. Unless. No, we can't. Even if they keep the Senate, if Republicans keep the Senate, and if in 2 years Republicans win back the House, and in 4 years from now, if Chris Christie becomes president, no airport going to be named after Trump.
Chris Christie, President Christie, what a thought!
He's planning on running.
Well, that's pathetic.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they
don't have anybody.
They have Donald Trump, and as you pointed out, we talked about this before we went on the air. Trump continues to raise millions and millions of dollars.
$250 million and counting.
And it's all his to do what he wants. And it was funny. I read this article in the paper in the New York Times talking about, he could use it to donate to other campaigns. I'm like, that man is not giving that money to another campaign.
No, the theory is that he's going to use the money to start up his own TV network, so he can have influence 24/7 and compete with Fox, Fox and Newsmax. That's not going to make him very happy. That's one theory. The other is he's going to use it for his legal defense.
Yeah, that's where it's going.
Right.
Donald Trump's approach to business, if this is before he got to the White House, is never spend his own money. Right. He gets other suckers to lend him money. Deutsche Bank, he gets them to lend his money. And if he goes bankrupt on him, he countersues them, renegotiates, and forces them to renegotiate a deal. That's basically been Donald Trump's strategy. It's been worked very well for him. And Monroe, as we always say, Michael Cohen warned everyone. If you get into bed with Donald Trump, you're going to get punished. Yeah.
You get fleas.
Yeah, you get fleas. All right.
But anyway, when we talk next week, we'll know whether he blinked or not.
On the 2000.
On the 2000.
Well, I hope he doesn't blink, but I think he will. I think it'd be great if Donald Trump forced all the quote unquote deficit hawks in the Republican Party to throw away all the BS they've been shoving down our throats all these years about the deficits and force them to up the ante, so to speak.
Well, they weren't deficit hawks for the past 4 years.
That's correct.
They just became deficit hawks very, very recently.
Good point.
So that's just. I mean, it's the hypocrisy is deafening and sickening.
All right. So now we're going to ask you a question in the capacity of former press secretary to Eugene Sawyer. We discussed this last week. Mayor Lori Lightfoot got herself in a lot of trouble with the way she handled the Anjanette Young video, tried to force its suppression, and that failed. And now she is trying to get ahead of the investigation. And so she did something very unique. She says, to get to the bottom of things, I'm going to have an investigator do an investigation of what my administration was doing. Okay. I believe that most of the suckers and saps in the city of Chicago, that'll be good enough for them. You know, if the past is any prelude to the future, they'll go, oh, yeah, it makes sense to me. She's having an investigation. How about those bears? So I think from a PR standpoint, will be a successful move because Chicagoans are not that bright. Your thoughts?
Period. Because this is what politicians do. They do it in Chicago. They do it in LA. They do it in Texas. They do it in Florida. They do it in DC. It's like when you have a problem, call for an investigation and let everything cool down. Yeah. And then they come up with whoever did the investigation come up with some solutions that you don't follow. Because by that time, there are other things that are outraging the voters.
I got it. So that's a very compelling argument. So let me just make an apology to Chicago voters you're really bright and smart. I was wrong. By the way, Monroe, totally nothing to do with anything. I just have to tell you, I was thinking of you. Maze Jackson was on the show last week. We dropped it over the weekend. It was a really interesting interview. Maze Jackson is a host, talk show. Used to be in WVON.
Yeah, now he has his own network.
Yeah, now he has his own network. Anyway, and we got into a discussion about the fallout from 1989 between Evans and Sawyer. And one of our favorite, Monroe and I's favorite topics, we'll never get tired of talking about what happened in 1989 and how the Black community lost its leverage. And then we, as an entire city, had to exist through 25 years of Richard M. Daley. And he conceded. Well, he wasn't a concession because he's a young man, relatively speaking, and he had nothing. He said that was a huge mistake to allow the community to get so divided and have one faction played against the other, and they should have just fallen in behind Eugene Sawyer. So here we are 30 years later, Monroe, and some vindication for you. I just wanted to share that.
Well, I've told you this, but your viewers should know this, or listeners should know this also, is I'm writing a chapter for a Dick Simpson book on the mayors, on Chicago mayors, about that episode. It was interesting. I want to interview Dorothy Tillman. I want to interview Tim Evans. I've interviewed Bobby Rush. Those were the three main Evans supporters. Well, Evans obviously supported himself. But anyway, I've interviewed Bobby Rush, and Bobby says to me that, which was a revelation, he says to me that they didn't think that Harold thought Evans was the heir apparent. They thought Evans was the heir apparent because he was very, very fluent, very polished, very outspoken. These things Sawyer was not, and so they thought that he was most like Harold. Evans was most like it. And being articulate. And so this is why they pushed him as the heir apparent.
Well, it's ancient history. I think it was a huge mistake.
Sawyer, just for the record, Sawyer offered Tim a solution. He said that Sawyer told Tim he didn't want to be mayor for life, that he'd do a couple of terms, and then Tim could become mayor. And when I talk to Evans, I'll find out if
he talks to you. He's now chief judge of the Cook County Circuit Court, so I don't know if I'll find the time to talk to Monroe Anderson.
I was at a year ago. I was at an opening of Mika Brzezinski's mother. She's a sculptor, and Tim was there at the opening. because Mika and Joe were there, Scottsboro. And so I actually talked to him. And he was cordial. I mean, I think he'll talk, but I haven't called him yet, so I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. But no, but this is the point I'd like to make, and then we got to go, is that had Evans gone along with that, Chicago, like Atlanta, could have had a series of black mayors for the past 30 years instead of being DLE'd. And the black community in general would be much better off.
Yeah, maybe we wouldn't have seen this huge departure from Chicago, which we're still struggling with so many black people having fled the city for all kinds of reasons.
Right.
Absolutely. And the reality is the power structure that runs this city thought it was a great thing that they divided and conquered the black community. And they thought it was a great thing that Richard M. Daley ruled for 25 years. And they thought it was a great thing that they ushered Rahm Emanuel in. And just ordinary Chicagoans got screwed in the process, Monroe. And typical Chicago stuff.
And black businessmen. Had Sawyer been mayor, and then Evans, and then whoever, Chicago would have a much larger and more influential black business class, because they would have gotten these contracts that the Irish got and other people.
I urge everybody to check out that Mays Jackson interview. It was fascinating stuff. We took the deep dive in all this. Monroe, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And I'll see you right before the New Year's in a week, all right?
Are you going to have your party this year?
No. No party this year, man. Just me hanging around the fire pit in the backyard, drinking liquor on my own and looking at the fire. So
you can marijuana is legal now.
Yes, legal. Eating the edibles that somebody gave me.
Okay, all right. So
I'll talk to you next week. That's the great Monroe Anderson every Wednesday on the Ben Joravsky Show. What you got for me, D?
No party this year?
No party, man. No millennials filling up the house. No, not happening.
Damn. All right.
It's a great party.
Let's do the back half here, everybody. Once again, no shows Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
No live shows.
No live shows. All right, let's redo that. We'll edit this out. Let's start over again here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's do the back half. Once again, no live shows Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. We hope everyone who hears this has a happy holiday. More info on our holiday plans coming up. But first, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
And Ben, they'll never know we messed that up in the beginning, Pretty good, right?
They'll never know.
Never know. The governor talked problems big and small during his pre-holiday COVID-19 press briefing this afternoon. It was a virtual meeting live from one of J.B. Pritzker's houses. He has like 5 of them. He's really rich, guys. And along with suggesting that we all keep our sorry asses at home this holiday season, Governor Pritzker delivered some good news. Wait. More than 100,000 people in Illinois have received the COVID-19 vaccine so far.
By sheer population, California is 3 times our size and Texas is 2.5 times our size. So they will eventually outpace us in sheer numbers at some point this week. But the vaccine team in Illinois sprinted past them all in week 1.
But what about this Moderna vaccine?
The Moderna vaccine, of course, does not require ultra-cold freezer storage and has a longer shelf life of 30 days if kept refrigerated after it's thawed, which allows for more flexibility in its distribution. And with this week's Moderna shipments, vaccine will have officially reached all 102 counties in Illinois.
Very interesting.
I like how he says, of course. You notice that? I don't know if you heard about it. Moderna, of course, doesn't require excellent. Like, we all know that. When you just put of course in there, it's like, of course, we all know that. And he's got that conversational way of saying, of course, like, oh, yeah, I knew that. Dennis is like, yeah, nodding his head. Yeah, I knew that. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
difference. Come on. Everybody knew that. It like goes without saying, Governor Pritzker.
I mean, gosh.
Yeah, you know.
Everybody knew that.
The enemy is you.
Hey, watch it, Pritzker.
JB Pritzker.
That one was for Michael Girardi on the live stream chat. All right.
Well, he loves the enemy is you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. All right. Now, because it's what you do in Illinois in the year 2020, we have more people actively suing the governor, suing him over his 5-phase mitigation strategy to safely reopen Illinois.
Face coverings.
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Michael O'Brien. 4 parents of Illinois high school athletes filed a lawsuit against Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Illinois High School Association in LaSalle County Court on Monday. The suit claims that Pritzker's cancellation of the winter high school sports season, quote, is an unconstitutional violation of the plaintiff's right to equal protection under the Constitution of the state of Illinois. The suit seeks to bar Pritzker and the IHSA from enforcing the cancellation of the winter sports season. Looks like here we have a quote from Laura Grochocki. Sorry if you're listening, Lauren. I butchered that last name. This is the attorney for the plaintiffs. Grochocki said, quote, Pritzker is using this emergency statute to create these restrictions. They are supposed to have a rational basis. We are asking why high school sports have the restrictions and why college sports and pro sports do not. Is there a rational basis for the restrictions on high schools, or is there something else at work here? Why are they allowed to play and high schools are not? We'll pause it right there. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, this is what would be a textbook dictionary definition of mixed message. Now, putting aside the notion of rationality, just like a search for rational reasoning in anything that happens in society today is very difficult. I could make a list of the differences between high school and college that might warrant allow the state to allow colleges to play, but prohibit high schools to play. I could go on that list. Like colleges have access to more money. They have wealthier, so they have more tests they can deliver. They could do to make sure that the players and the trainers and the coaches don't have the virus. I could say that the players in a college team they're housed by the university, so they're protected to a certain degree, whereas high school players, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, don't all live in the same house, come from all over the area to one setting, and different athletes could be exposed to the virus. So I can make all these distinctions, but ultimately, the reality is that there really is no rational reason, D, that would be so vigilant and regarding high school kids. And so negligent regarding college athletes, other than there's a lot of money at stake with college sports, particularly football. And it hasn't worked out all that well. I would point this out, that the parents who are filing this lawsuit, I'm not quite sure if ultimately the best interests of society are being served by their lawsuit. I remember the parents of athletes at Ohio State, for instance, who really pressed hard to have a football season, a Big Ten football season. If you recall, the Big Ten wasn't going to have a football season, and then they flip-flopped. Make fun of myself for flip-flopping. I'm mad again.
And what's that sound like again?
They went they had a meeting, and they went bang,
nice.
And they reversed. And I remember the president of Northwestern University, Mort Shapiro, saying, well, when the facts change, I change with the facts. And I'm like, man, nothing changed. It's like they got in the room and told you, lots of money at stake. We're going to lose all these broadcasting contracts. So it's kind of embarrassment. The Big Ten football season, a lot of cancellations, players coming down with the virus. They staggered and struggled through it. Ultimately, look, I'm not a big-time football fan. My life goes on without football. So, like with basketball, it's a different thing. Okay. You know, can we make sure that the players are at the front of the line getting the vaccine so I get to watch basketball? But yeah, they make a good point. I just don't know if it's in the best interests of the students to force the state to allow them to play. I don't know if that's in the best interest. I just know a lot of parents. I understand their plight. You know, it's one of the highlights of their life to see little Bobby play football or wrestle or play basketball, and the moment passes and it's like they've lost something in their mind's eye. Little Bobby could have made it to the NBA if he had only had that senior year of high school ball. And probably delusional, but you know, D, if you had kids who played sports, you've been there. You know what it's like. You really get wrapped up into it. So I'm not sure the parents have the best interest at stake. And if it ultimately undermines the ability of the Pritzkers of the world to enact rules and regulations that protect us, it's not a healthy thing. So the faster we can get these vaccines out, D, the better. That's my attitude about it.
And there was something you wanted to mention about the Bulls head coach, right?
Yes, speaking of my beloved Chicago Bulls, and here comes a huge mixed message. Having just said that about high school athletes, I'm all excited about the start of a new Bulls season. Am I sending out a mixed message? Yes. Am I a freaking hypocrite? A little bit, yes. Is Darren Bailey going to go, see, proves my point? Well, if you listen to the show, yes. I heard a lawyer for those parents going to say, what's the rationale? Huh? Suddenly I'm turning the lawyer into Ben Shapiro. Huh? I don't get it. Hey, Democrats do this, huh? Yeah? Huh?
Seriously, guys. Really? Really, guys? Really? More about how the Democrats are horrible people. But first, do you want bed sheets? Really, guys? Really?
Your Ben Shapiro imitation is way better than mine. I have to concede that. But having said all that, yes, lawyer for the students, I do hope the NBA gets off. It's going to be a very interesting, rocky road. My beloved Bulls begin the regular season tonight, and I'm very excited about it, even though I haven't figured out a way to watch them, D. A long, complicated story. I don't have access to Bulls games. I'll be following on the internet until I figure out how to do that. There's a picture in the paper. The bright one.
I'd try and help you with that, but it just makes such great content for a podcast. You're not able to figure it out.
I know. And it's so weird because like the whole world has figured it out, but somehow or other I haven't figured it out, you know? And I think it was Frank who helped me at one point with advice on YouTube, but it's not working anymore, Frank, the advice you gave me. And so I'm just going to have to invest in whatever streaming service will get me the Bulls. But then there's like the NBA package, which doesn't get you Bulls games. It's blacked out. Okay, then I got to go, all right, the NBC sports thing, but that gets me Blackhawk. Okay, I don't want to watch the Blackhawks. CCD, it's complicated, all right? I'm confused.
Aww, our poor host. Aw.
You know who's really mad at me is that lawyer for the kids. This guy is such a hypocrite. Anyway, I'm really excited about my beloved Bulls. And Miles Conflassen, a frequent guest on the show, is also excited about the Bulls. And he asked that we play like a Bulls. Great moments in podcasting. Folks, if you could see producer Dennis right now. Now he just left. I don't know where he went. Anyway, he went somewhere. Oh, now he's returned. A new set of headphones. I don't know what that meant. Anyway, it was a real funny thing he sent me. It was a 12 Days of Christmas bit that the Bulls did. It just got me feeling all seasonal. You know, it's kind of hard to feel Christmassy, D, when there's no snow, you know, on the ground, and they're all stuck in the house.
Didn't you go to California a lot on Christmas?
No. Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Get it
okay.
straight.
All right.
Get it straight, okay? I thought you stopped smoking reefer, all right?
All right. We do have that audio, though, if you want to check it out.
All right, let's go. This is for all the Bulls fans out there. Miles Conflassen sent this in a couple days ago.
Wait, hold on. All right, Ben, stall this. Doing the audio off my phone, guys. Sometimes
it's off your phone?
Yeah.
What's the matter with the computer?
It's a long story, all right? It's a long story.
It's a long story. And I can tell you right now, this stuff will be edited out.
Horrible job of stalling. Okay, here we go.
On the first day of Christmas, Chicago gave to me a basketball and a pear tree. On the second day of Christmas, Chicago gave to me 2 alley-oops, a basketball and a pear tree.
On the third day of Christmas, Chicago gave to me 3 block shots,
2 alley-oops, a basketball and a pear tree.
On the fourth day of Christmas, Chicago gave to me 4 pick and rolls,
3 block shots,
2 alley-oops, a basketball and a pear tree. On the fifth day of Christmas, Chicago gave to me 5 golden rings,
4 pick and rolls,
3 block shots,
2 alley-oops, a basketball and a pear tree.
Okay.
The guy with the 5 golden rings is Derrick Rose. This is an old video. Joakim Noah, Miles, God bless him. Thanks for sending it to me. The beloved Bulls from like 2012, around that era. Ronnie Brewer is still on the team. I just love it so much, in part D, because I've discovered that I'm not the only bad singer in the world.
Oh my God, yeah. And I just love people's loyalty to sports teams. The Bulls just can't do anything bad in Ben Joravsky and Miles Camp Lassen's eyes. But, oh yes, they can. This thing.
Yeah. Well, they can't sing, and they really can't play basketball that well. But other than that, great team.
Good times. And by the way, Bulls trivia, weigh in. Let us know. Give us some questions. Maybe you want to weigh in. Let us know what you think, how the Bulls will do this season. Send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. And at Benny J Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, BENNY, the letter J Show. And you could call us 708-658-4788. Okay, we want to remind everyone one more time here about our holiday lineup. First up, Christmas Eve, tomorrow. Comedian and daughter of Ben Joravsky, Rachel Joravsky, with comedian partner Cody Wilkins will be joining us. It's going to be available for download tomorrow morning by 5 a.m. at the Chicago Reader website and wherever else you download podcast. And in about 2 hours, we're going to be jumping back on the Chicago Reader live stream here, and we will begin our top 10 Chicago and or Illinois stories of 2020 countdown. It'd be great if you join us. If not, don't worry. It will be available for download on Christmas morning. And because the year 2020 was a total shit show, and yes, admittedly, also because we added the word gate at the end of every single local story this year, we're going with a creepy, evil, what life would in hell would sound like sort of vibe. We're calling it, and Merry Christmas, the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell.
The 10
Oh my God.
Of Illinois Hell. I wanna live
Holy crap. It's going to be going down in about 2 hours. Join us on the live stream chat. I mean, especially if you've joined us for the local news all throughout the year. It's kind of a payoff for the year 2020 in the Ben Joravsky Show local news segment. So join us, and like I said, it's going to be available for download at the Chicago Reader website and wherever else you download podcasts. All right, and real quick, our Benny J Show weekend lineup, Benny J bonus interview lineup. On Saturday, Chicago political strategist Del Marie Cobb will be back. She's joining us. She talked Biden and so much more. On Sunday, we will be playing a best of show. We're going to move our Dan Savage interview to the front of the line. And finally, on Monday, a brand new interview with ProPublica journalist and dear friend of the program, Mr. Mick Dumke. It's going to be available for download Monday by 5 a.m. He talked the Ann Jeanette Young video and more. It's our holiday content. Go check it out while we're away. And on Tuesday, we will be back with a new live Ben Joravsky show.
Absolutely. I want to thank Monroe Anderson for doing an outstanding job, as he always does. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible, as Monroe Anderson and Derek Rose will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. Take care, everybody.
Face coverings. Big problem. The enemy is you. Face coverings.